Hello everyone, this is Ryan, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use useEffect and useState in order to make an interactive web design using or interacting with the keyboard. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to go to my desktop through the terminal by using CD, and then I'm just going to create a new React app on my desktop using npx create React app, and I will just say keyboard interactive keyboard. Cool. And now we can see interactive keyboard in the bottom right has been made on my desktop. And then in the terminal, it's doing its thing. Um, and yeah, so I'm just going to be walking through step by step, starting from scratch on how to use event listeners and useEffect and useState in order to make an interactive web page. And that can interact with the keyboard. And this is just really cool if you want to make some sort of like video game or, I don't know, something where you need the keyboard. It's going to be very helpful. Okay, so I'm going to CD into interactive keyboard. And then I'm going to open it up in Visual Studio Code. Okay. All right, so first of all, just making sure that we're good. So I just have my basic React app. We can go into our terminal right here. We're inside of interactive keyboard, which is perfect. That's our project folder. So I can just run npm start. And hopefully, should open any minute now. Okay, cool. So here's our React app. Just like the base ones that I've shown you guys before. So like I said, we can go ahead and delete all this. I'll just keep the app div because why not? All right. Okay, so I just want to make something really simple. So in our app div, I'm just going to have text align center. I'm just going to have some text that I want to choose. And then inside, just because I don't want to make the HTML too complicated, I really want to focus on the useEffect. I'm just going to have an H1 that just says some text. Cool. All right. So now we check our document. It just says some text. Great. That's all I wanted. All right. So now to the important part. I'm going to be going through how to use useEffect and useState and some inline styling in order to make this website interactive with your keys. Okay. So first of all, let's just say I want to have some color that I want this text to be based on the key that I'm pressing at that time. Okay. So let's just see. We will use a useState. So we can use const. Now we can just say color. Set color. Remember, set color is just our function that is automatically created by React when we do this. And we can do useState, and then I'm just gonna say black. And then for the colors, I would just look it up online. What are some of the colors I can use? You can use ChatGPT. Black is just one of those colors that's just automatically already defined by CSS, so you are good to go. Also, if you remember, we have to import our useState, so we can do that. By the way, just to get this really quickly, if you see here, I just went useState, and then when this is the top option, you can just press tab and it autofills for you. Okay, so I have a color that I want it to be set to, so I'm just going to use a useState. And remember, we're using the useState because basically it renders as the page, or it re-renders whenever whenever color changes. If we were just to use a normal variable like this wouldn't work because basically when we interact with the page by pressing some keys, the value would update in our code, but it wouldn't actually update on the page itself. So we use the useState so the page actually re-renders and shows our new updated value of useState. Okay, so we have useState, our useState implemented. So next up is the real important part, and that's going to be our useEffect. So if we remember, useEffect has a syntax of basically you're going to call useEffect, and then it's going to be some sort of function, and then your array that's filled with dependencies, right? This is not actual code. This is just showing you guys a breakdown of the syntax. So we have useEffect, and then this is going to be our function right here and our dependencies. And usually you're going to have some sort of arrow function, which just means you don't have to actually declare it. If you just use this syntax where we have the empty or whatever our parameters are right here in parentheses, and then a equal sign, and then the greater than sign, and then our curly brackets right here. In between these curly brackets, this can be where we put our function. Okay. Now, how you do it in React to make it where it's interactive with the keyboard, you have to have a couple of different steps. So there's 4 things in total that you need. You need a function to handle your key down. So we are just making a function to handle key down, and we are using arrow functions to do so. So it's just this syntax. This would be the same thing as saying function handle key down. It's just arrow functions are kind of the current normally used thing. And then our parameter for this is just going to be event. This is just what is going to be called. We'll get into this later, or this is just one of our parameters. We'll get into this later, but handle key down is just going to be our function that is called when a key is pressed. Okay, so we've declared that. We'll go through the actual implementation after. We also have to have your handle key up. And then this one actually doesn't need any parameters because we're going to do the same thing every time. So it doesn't really matter which key is going up. It just matters that a key is going up. So we don't need any parameters when the function is called. Okay. Next up, you got to add your event listeners. The first one is for adding your event listeners. So you don't have this inside of a return statement. Basically, we add our event listener saying key down, and this is a predefined, not keyword, but basically React already understands what key down is, so you don't have to do anything to kind of declare it. And then you put in the second parameter your handle key down function. Okay. Now we have to do the same thing, but we have to do it for our key up function. So we have to add key up, and then a comma, and then our handle key up function. Yep. So you pretty much have to do window.add event listener, and this just adds it sounds self-explanatory, but it adds an event listener to your window. So the window is just basically waiting for a key up, down or a key up to happen. So we're gonna go ahead and add these two, and then lastly, you have to, these are the first 3 things you have to have. And then lastly, within your return statement, it's another arrow function, which just removes the event listeners. So we do window.remove event listener, and then we just say key down, and then handle key down. And then we do the same thing for our key up. So we say remove event listener and key up, and then handle key up. So this just basically takes our functions and the event listeners off of the window after we just add them on. And this is just going to be when this useEffect returns. And then in our dependencies, remember, we're just going to have nothing because as our useEffect works where you pretty much inside of this dependencies array is everything that would cause our useEffect function to get called. So if we have nothing inside of our dependency array, that means that it's only going to get called once, which is right when the page is, started up or refreshed or saved or something like that. So when the page actually fully re-renders, then this function will get called. But we don't want it to get called based upon any variables changing, so we're just going to have an empty dependency array. All right, so now we have our 4 components. So we basically just want to handle the key down component. So first, we just say, if you want to say talk about a specific key, then you can use this if event dot key. Now this event dot key is just taking in this event, and this event is just whatever happens when or it's just gonna be our key down. So when you press, let's say A, so we'll use A right here. When you press A, then it goes to our key down listener, and then it calls the handle key down function, and it passes in the event that just happened. So if the event was the pressing of the key A, then our event dot key will equal A. And to know what exactly to use, you can just look this up online. You know, if you wanted to use like arrow up, I think it would be something like arrow up, like or up arrow or something like that. But I would say, again, just look at these online. These are all just syntax things. I'm not too worried about, having you guys memorize all of it, because it can be a lot. Okay, so then we say if our event.key is A, then let's just say I want the color to be blue. Okay, so now if I press A, it'll set this color to being blue. And I'll just do if D is pressed, so else if event.key D, then we're gonna set color to, we'll say green, or I'll do red just to have it opposing. Nice. Okay, so now we've defined our handle key down function. So basically it's just saying, or we've implemented our handle key down function. So it's just saying we get this event, and then if the event dot key is A, then we're going to set our color to blue. And then if event dot key equals D, then we're going to set our color to red. Sweet. Now we just do our key up function. So let's just say I only want the color to be set when the key is down, and then when I release the key, then it goes back to being black. So because of this, we're going to do set color is equal to black. Yes. Okay. All right, so this looks good now. And then if we go back to our document and it's saved, I'm going to press the A key. Oh wait, I forgot to add the styling, the actual inline styling component. My fault. All right, so this can be the important part, and the syntax is kind of weird, but this is where the inline styling is going to come into play. So if we have our h1, and then I say style equals, style equals, and we have curly brackets. Now, if you want to do inline styling and use some sort of variable, you're going to have, or if you want to do inline styling, you're going to have two sets of curly brackets. So then we have, inside the second set of curly brackets, we're going to have color, and this is just a CSS property. You can use this in your CSS file if you wanted. Like if I wanted to do color, then we could just have color right here. So this is just normal CSS syntax, and then we're going to have our colon, which is completely normal, and then we're going to have another thing called color. Now this is kind of confusing. This second color is our actual color variable or state that we have right here. So basically we're just saying whatever our color is, that's what we want the color of the text to be. Maybe I should change this. I'll change this to text color just so it's not as confusing. Text color. Nice. Okay. And then we'll just have text color. Okay, cool. So now basically it's constantly checking for text color because it's what it's being rendered with. So then we're just saying the h1, and then its style, which is just the CSS, is this style. And you could also add other things in a CSS file that you wanted, but this is just so it makes it dynamic. So now if we go back, I'm going to press A, and hopefully this should turn, based on our code, hopefully it should turn blue. Perfect. I'm holding down A and it's blue, and then I'm going to release and it turns back to black, and then I press D, and it turns red. I release, and it turns back to black. Okay. So yeah, if we just want to do a little quick recap, going from top to bottom. So first of all, we're going to have some sort of state that just holds our color. Now, you can use this for many different things. If you remember the example I showed in class, it was some sort of pointer that I just rotated from left to right. This is something you can kind of learn on your own how to do. A little bit of a challenge. You got to do some outside research. But yeah, the color was just one example. If you wanted to change a number being displayed on the screen, you could also do this if you wanted. Yeah, so in our case, we're just using the use state to hold our color. And then remember, we have our use effect function. Now, this use effect function is what declares our event listeners. So there's 4 things I want you guys to remember. You have to have your handle key down function that holds the event. And then our handle key up function. And if you want to have it depend on what key is being released, then you can use event as a parameter as well. But since for mine, it doesn't matter what key is being released, and it just always is going to go back to black, we don't need any parameters. Yeah, so we have to have our handle key down, which has an event to check what key it is. And that can be checked by using event.key equals whatever. And then, yeah, we have our handle key up function, which just sets our text back to black in this case. And then outside of the return, we have our add event listener, window.add event listener with key down. And then the second parameter of that is just going to be our handle key down function. And then we have our window.add event listener key up. And the second parameter of that is going to be our handle key up function. Now, inside the return statement, so this is just going to be called when the window kind of closes or we don't need it. Then we're going to remove our event listener, and that's going to be done using window.remove event listener key down, and then comma our key handling function, so the handle key down function. Okay, so yeah, that's the 4 components of using the inside of the use effect. And then we also have the inline styling. So this is going to be done with using style equals, and then we have the double curly brackets. And then just like our normal CSS almost, but I would definitely take a deeper look into this using the web or some sort of AI on how the syntax for inline styling works if you want to have it combined with some sort of use state or variables that you declared earlier. All right. Hope this wasn't too hard to understand. Feel free to reach out if you have any more clarifying questions. I will be posting the code as well. All right.